Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Art Show. Today we are drawing Spider-Carnage, and I don't necessarily have a topic that I intended on talking about this time. So I suppose we're just going to go over some of the usual stuff that we sometimes talk about, probably new stuff as well. This one could kind of go either way on how long it takes. Because on the one hand we're drawing Spider-Carnage, which is something very unconventional. For us, we don't normally draw the kind of strange characters all that much. We tend to draw kind of usual stuff. Nothing too crazy is what I tend to go for. But yeah, today we're drawing Spider-Carnage, so that's kind of, yeah, a little out of the ordinary. A little bit of a self-indulgent pick of where I just wanted to draw something kind of silly. And yeah, as I said, this could kind of go either way. This could take forever, or it could be really quick, because I don't actually have to draw a face. There's a lot of detail which, obviously isn't here. So I suppose something which we're going to be going for here is heavy shading. And we're going to want this to look very dark. So all of the parts of this which are black, I'm going to be using the darkest black. I'm going to be using I'm just going to be doing it in our details. As part of the details, I'm just going to be doing it there, of where it's going to be very dark, very intense in that sense. And yeah, we're going to be going for a very dark looking thing. So yeah, anyways, I will roll the intro and then I will show you what I've currently got. So yeah. Okay, so this is our starting point. The reference image I used here is a reference image I've used many times before, so I mean, you can tell the kind of level of effort I put in beforehand here. So yeah, as I say, we're going to be using just our pure darkest brush, our detail brush, to do all of these dark parts, which includes the area around the eyes, which includes the spider. So we're going to want this to be pretty dark, is what I'm saying. Now I was considering trying to sort of blend this in, doing like little hatches here so that I could still get some of that lighter part there. Same with along the spider, but I don't think I'm going to bother doing that. I think I'm just going to have it be pure black, if only just for the sake of having this not take as long. Now again, if you are familiar with how Spider-Carnage looks, you'll know that I've made a few minor alterations, specifically in the shape of his eyes. So a lot of the time he still normally has the same normal Spider-Man eye shape, the kind of typical shape of Spider-Man's eyes, but obviously the Carnage mouth. But what I have done here is I've given him something sort of halfway between kind of normal eyes and symbiote eyes. Something like that is kind of the general idea I've gone for here. I've given him the huge claw hands, I've given him the kind of tubes on his wrists and all this stuff, and I'm probably going to, again, as I say, I kind of did this base sketch a little bit haphazardly, so there's parts of this which I'm going to need to alter. So for example, the little kind of bits of tentacling which are kind of coming out of him, I'm probably going to put more of that in as I'm going, so that'll be an adjustment which I'll be making. So there's obviously a little bit of it coming off the legs here, coming off the shoulders. I might put a tiny bit coming off of his head, but we'll see about that. That one might be... I might consider not doing that, because it might make him look weird. That's the reason. To have like a weird like fin on his head might look strange. But yeah, I'll probably put more along here, along this arm and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see what I do with that. But all in all, again, as I say, this isn't a very complex one. I don't necessarily have a topic which I want to go over. But I'm probably going to be doing like some lighting stuff here. I'm probably going to have, yeah, some kind of like weird lighting is what I'm probably going to do. And what I'm probably going to do, like for the background, I might... A thing which it was a thing which I did on the Ultimate Spider-Man thumbnails, which is I put in speed lines. I might put in a degree of that to kind of make it look a bit more horror-y, and to try and sell that a little bit more, to try and sell the kind of horrificness of this. I don't know what the word would be. I don't know if that's really a word, but yeah, to sell the kind of the horror of the scene, I might try and do that. Put in some speed lines or something. Just some like a few lines around the edges of the screen, something like that. Now again, that's the type of thing which might take a while, but it also might not at all. So we'll see what I do about that. But yeah, so that's obviously for much later. That's a thing for kind of the end. Because that's all background stuff. But the background here, I'm not going to be doing anything like crazy. I'm just going to put like a gradient where it's maybe a yellow circle out to like a dark orange out there, so that it kind of creates the sort of creates the kind of Carnage-y colors to a degree. The inside of his mouth is an interesting thing, actually, now that I think about it, because in a lot of the reference images that I was seeing for him, it varies. Sometimes it's yellow, sometimes it's pink, sometimes it's red, sometimes it's orange. I think I'm probably going to go with yellow for the inside of his mouth. It's probably the color I'm going to go for. But yeah, I'm going to be making all of this just pure black, same with the spider and everything, so that will probably speed us up a bit. Maybe it'll cut off some time from the colors section, but will obviously add some time to the details section. So we'll see how this works. We'll see how I feel about this, because obviously this is a bit more experimental. Again, I didn't necessarily have a topic on hand for this one. I'm just kind of indulging myself in a drawing, which I just kind of feel like doing. That's kind of more so what I'm doing here. Nothing specifically oriented around the topic, nothing that I necessarily need to talk about, but yeah, just a nice little diversion of a drawing, which I just kind of felt like doing. So yeah, this is Spider-Carnage. And it's funny because Carnage is also on my list, but I didn't want to do Carnage. I don't want to do Spider-Carnage, because Spider-Carnage is weird. Spider-Carnage is a very weird idea. Of being like, he looks so different than normal Carnage, where you would think he would just look like Carnage. But anyways, I don't think I need to kind of amble around any longer, ramble. So I think I will just begin, more or less. So yeah. There's like some detailing on the body, which I'm probably not gonna bother including, like the kind of like, I'll probably include like the kind of vague shape of the abs, something like that. Because obviously he's still got the kind of Spider-Man webbed stuff on him, the webbed texture on the kind of core suit. So yeah. Anyways, I will begin. I'll do these details and then I'll be back at some point to talk more. So yeah. Okay, so that is our details done, as long as that took. So yeah, I feel like the rest of this will be reasonably quick because there really aren't many colors going on here, and it's not like I have to do anything crazy. So again, I kind of did the details in a longer way, knowing that it would make the rest of it quicker. Because by doing all the black as just pure black, that means I don't have to worry about that later. I don't have to color it in later. It's already done now, so, and I don't have to worry about shading it and all this stuff. So realistically speaking, there's only actually going to be 2 colors, well, 3, which have any shading on them, being the red, the blue, which there isn't very much of, and the silver. But, yeah. So realistically speaking, not actually that much to do. So there's a few little tricks which I'm going to need to do here during the colouring. So for example, I'm going to start with the mouth, and because I'm going to be going for a yellowy orange, what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour it in. This is base colour first for the orange, and then I'm going to create a clipping mask, and then because this obviously isn't going to be shaded, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get one of my gradient tools, and I'll get it to be probably a shape like this, so that it comes out as a little kind of like as a kind of rounded kind of place in it, so that it kind of and get a lighter color, and then just kind of pop that in like that, so it looks like it's kind of like there's a lighter part in the middle of it where it's kind of emanating out from. So it'll have the kind of Carnage look that way. Now the question is, I'll obviously have to do the background during this section as well because of the silver. And the white. But yeah, so when it comes to that, we'll see how that works, because I might do the speed lines, however many of those I decide to do, during this section, which will mean that we'll be seeing a lot of the canvas rotating like this, because what I'll have to do is I'll have to rotate, do a line, rotate, do a line, rotate, do a line. That's basically how I'm going to have to do it. So brace yourself, because you're going to be seeing this canvas spinning around quite a bit during this upcoming section. But yeah, so as soon as my brain catches up, while I was doing that, I also kind of embellished a few bits as I was going while I was doing the details, such as the kind of little tentacles which kind of cling to all the blue. I decided to kind of really kind of make those a little longer, and you can obviously see here there's the kind of little bit of where it's kind of wrapping around the back, and then you can see it's kind of tying up here. And yeah, it looks like quite taut the way that it kind of wraps around, and there's a few little things here of obviously the kind of web pattern needs to be affected by the fact that this red is symbiote. So you can see here that it kind of raises a little bit and kind of runs up along the kind of tentacly bits along the edges of them, which is a nice little detail, I thought. So, yeah. With all that said, I can get on with the colours, which, again, as I say, shouldn't be too crazy, because I've already done a lot of the kind of hard parts with just pure black, which should speed me up quite a bit. In theory. The rest of this shouldn't be that long, actually. But that said, it did take 2 hours and 40 minutes just to do the details, so we'll see. Anyways, I'll get on with this. You'll see what I mean whenever I say I'm going to do the little gradient thing for the mouth. And then I'll just create, like a little circular gradient that pops out after I've actually colored it in. And that's basically the same thing I'm going to do with the background. Have a circular gradient emanating from behind him that comes out into a kind of dark orange, into a yellow. Something like that. Maybe a reddy orange. Something along those lines. But that's the idea anyways. You'll see what I mean as I'm going. So yeah, anyways. Okay, so that is our colors done and our background fully done. Yeah, so the speed lines, they're intense. But I think they definitely add something. For all intents and purposes, this is basically the exact same way that I did the thumbnails for Ultimate Spider-Man. Was I did this kind of thing, pretty much, and it took about that long as well. But I technically actually had a larger canvas, so it would have taken a lot longer. Actually, now that I think about it. However, with the shading, I never did any painted shading for those. Actually, no, I did. I did a tiny little bit for Spider-Man's eyes. I did a tiny little bit of it there. But largely, I just used really a lot. I used much heavier detailed shading for that. I didn't do painted shading. But now, I'm going to do painted shading. However, this should be pretty quick because I've only got to do it on 3 colors. I've only got to do it on silver, blue, and red. And I think I'm just going to go for purpley and yellow. That's it. Just going to go for a kind of skew towards purple, skew towards yellow. Purple for the dark, yellow for the light. That's just kind of what I'm going to go for here. That's going to be my kind of basic skew on this is that. Which, pretty mild, all things considered. And then the hope here is that I'm going to use a gradient map which is going to maybe darken this so that he is quite dark as compared to the background, because the background is lighter than his colors. I specifically picked darker colors so that he would appear darker than the background, obviously apart from the speed lines, which I decided to be black because they fit a little bit more than having white ones. White ones I think would stand out a little too much. They'd stick out a little bit. I mean, you can see here that I did kind of just whack these out pretty quick, because some of them, like, you can see that the edge of the line is a little, the end of the line is a little thin, and they get thickest in the middle, which isn't really what you want them to be. Thickest at the very end and then thinnest at the other very end. So I mean, this is the thing. It's like you're going to get a bit of a not exactly clean line there, but that's just time. Really, is the reason for that. Because I mean, obviously in the Ultimate Spider-Man ones, they were a lot cleaner lines, and that's because I had the time. But obviously, I'm trying to do this all in the one go, which I didn't in the case of the Ultimate Spider-Man thumbnails. Those took quite a while. They took a couple of days. But with these, I'm obviously trying to get an art video done in a single day. So I would prefer to not have this stretch over multiple days. I'm nearly done, so it's not going to. We're nearly 4 hours in, so at this point, I'm near the end, because all I've got to do is do the painted shading, do the detailed shading, and that's it. And those sections don't take very long. So, with that said, I will carry on and I will do the painted shading. And then I'll be back with the detailed shading. So yeah, anyways. Okay, so that is our painted shading done, and as I said, it was reasonably quick. So, next on the agenda is our detailed shading, which should be also reasonably quick, in theory. So, yeah. So, as I say, the painted shading here, I wanted to try and keep it a little bit minimal, a little bit subtle, so all it really affects is the red, the blue, and the silver. That's it. However, our detailed shading will be pretty much mostly the same thing. However, I'm going to try and keep things pretty dark. Again, I don't want it to be too bright. I want it to be kind of like a haze of light along here, like a soft bit of light here, and then a rim light along this edge. But that's it. And I'll do that within this section. I'll probably do the rim light as yellow. So, yeah. Anyways, I'll do this detailed shading, and then I'll be back to wrap up and do the gradient maps. So, yeah. That is us basically done. So I did the light line, which of course I decided to make yellow as a little bit of a diversion from what I'd normally do. Forgot to do my signature. I'll do that now as I am wrapping up. So yeah, realistically speaking, this one wasn't too bad. Still, I mean, pretty long, all things considered. But yeah, like I mean, because what we're looking at 4.5 hours currently now of recording time. So, I mean, this will probably end up being like an average length video, so 40 minutes. I don't know why I'm bothering to go over this, it doesn't really matter. But, yeah, so color palette wise, we're going to want to keep this dark. So, we're going to want this to be purpley color like that. Still going to want it to be pretty dark though. This should, actually, that should still be that color, that's perfectly fine, keep that way. And then we're going to want this one to be red. It has to be dark. Probably around here, I'd say. And that should work. That should be enough, I think, actually. Maybe even lower. Because we want this to be very dark. I want a lot of him to be in shadow. I was considering doing a second light line to go over the edges of the blank, but I was like, nah, no point. Just make my life easier. Okay, so that's pretty dark. That's pretty good. He kind of blends a little bit, so that's decent. Soft light is what we're gonna want to go with, though. Turn it down to leave it on 80%. Keep it intense. Make a duplicate of that. Put it underneath and make it luminosity, which will obviously make things very dark. So leave that at 25%. Duplicate that. This one can be color burn. And we'll make that 10%, I think. Because, yeah, that makes it significantly darker, which is good. That's what we want. And again, it's just this soft edge of light, and then a little bit of the yellow along the edges to give them a rim light, but largely pretty dark. So, now I need to grab my texture to throw over top, and then that'll basically be it. So yeah, all in all, this one wasn't too bad. It was a fun one. I got to do a character who's been on my list since I've had a list. So yeah, that was one. It's odd to think that I've had Spider-Carnage on my list for, yeah, as I say, as long as I've had a list. But in that time, I've never thought of a topic to assign to the video. So I suppose one of the things which maybe I should have talked about whenever I was doing the details is the messiness of doing any sort of Carnage adjacent thing, which I suppose does include just going for any sort of symbiote character. Yeah, realistically that goes for any sort of symbiote character because of just the kind of, again, the nature of it is that they're quite messy, especially whenever you're doing all these little lines that are kind of squiggling out and all this stuff where you're it kind of follows the same principle as drawing fire, as the way that I draw fire. So you get these kinds of bits of where it just kind of like it forms these weird shapes and then moves out into a fine point, and that's just kind of how it moves. And again, it all kind of just moves in this direction, and that's kind of the way it is. It just kind of comes across as just kind of constantly moving. And that's obviously the difficult part, is to sell that. Now that texture I think is looking alright, so let me turn it off and on again. Yeah, it kind of fades out our background a little nicely. Yeah, I think that's fine at 20%. 20% is maybe a little low. Lower than I might normally go for, but I think it works well enough. But yeah, so yeah, as I say, the messiness is kind of a part of the deal whenever you're drawing Carnage or Spider-Carnage or any adjacent character like that. Hell, even Venom a lot of the time, that can be a big part of it, is you're dealing with a messy kind of thing, and you can't get too attached to creating these perfect little lines, which is the thing that I always struggle with whenever doing these sorts of things, is again trying to refine and refine and refine, which is just a thing that I have a habit of doing. But obviously part of the art show is that I don't have the time to do that, so I can't do that. So it kind of forces me to be a little bit more conservative about how I do these things, and to not bite off more than I can chew in the sense of stuff that I can actually finish without getting too preoccupied with perfecting parts of it. But yeah, so I don't think I need to ramble on any longer. I think I've kind of gotten to the meat of it at this point. I think it's come out quite nicely. But yeah, that is our Spider-Carnage. A little bit of an unconventional pick, but yeah, I think it was fun enough. But yeah, I think I will wrap up there. I will call it for the episode because it's 4.5 hours of recording. So yeah, I will say my outro and then I'll leave you. So if you liked the video, do whatever you normally do, whether that be liking or not. I would of course prefer if you liked it, but if you're not going to do that, you're not going to do it, and I can't make you. If I could make you, I would, but you know, such is life. And yeah, if you, it's the same deal. If you want to subscribe, go for it. If not, that's fine. I would of course prefer if you did, but you know, again, as I said before, can't make you do it. If I mean, you know where the subscribe button is. I don't need to tell you where to look for it. You've presumably seen a YouTube video before, so you know. But yeah, and if you choose to watch the next video, I'll see you next time. So with all that said, that is us. So I will say goodbye, and I'll leave you. So, bye-bye.